Let's go into this last stage here.
Yeah.
Which is so stage 4 of rebirth is the resurrection or the return or the freedom to live. Dylan, do you want to open it? I know you had a quote sort of about what this is and what it does.
Yeah. So again, like, what is this reward for Swedenborg? It's regeneration. It's the as of self, but it's also a new perspective, right? And I just wanted to acknowledge, first off, Joseph Campbell was certainly aware of Emanuel Swedenborg. He writes in some of these books, he was aware at very least.
Okay.
But I wanted to point out how deeply, intuitively, he understood the Bible as a symbolic or metaphorical story, which is, of course, the core, at least for me, it's my way in, the core of Swedenborgian philosophy, that the Bible has a literal meaning, but much, much more important, there's an eternal and deeper meaning. And I want to read a quote, and Campbell had a way of just spouting this stuff off. This is from The Power of Myth, sort of interview. So this isn't written. This is off the top of his head. He says, "The reference of the metaphor in religious traditions is to something transcendent that is not literally anything. If you think that the metaphor is itself the reference, it would be like going to a restaurant, asking for the menu, seeing beefsteak written there, and starting to eat the menu."
Needs salt.
Right? Yeah. So when we take the
dry.
Bible and we take it literally at face value, there are some things that can be helpful there. We're not saying there's no value on the literal level. But he goes on and he says, for example, Jesus ascended to heaven. The denotation would seem to be that somebody ascended to the sky. That's literally what's being said. But if that were really the meaning of the message, then we would have to throw it away, because there would have been no such place for Jesus literally to go. We know that Jesus could not have ascended to heaven because there is no physical heaven anywhere in the universe, no physical heaven.
Yep.
Even ascending at the speed of light, Jesus would still be in the galaxy. Astronomy and physics have simply eliminated that as a physical, literal possibility. But if you read Jesus ascended to heaven in terms of its metaphoric connotation, you see that he has gone inward, not into outer space, but into inner space, to the place in which all beings come, into the consciousness that is the source of all things, the kingdom of heaven within. The images are outward, but their reflection is inward. The point is that we should ascend with him by going inward. It is a metaphor of returning to the source, Alpha and Omega, and of leaving the fixation on the body behind and going to the body's dynamic source.
Mm-hmm. Jesus at the speed of light. He'd still be out there like the Voyager craft from 71. Can still ping him. Yeah, of course. And everybody knows that. And I do think that sometimes biblical translations will translate sky into heaven, but that's not how you should do it, because you're mixing metaphors. Same thing with angels. It's actually just messengers, and I think that's kind of splicing correspondences with but keep it all one or the other, and then it forces you to acknowledge there's an inner meaning.
I think that this is a useful thing to explain a little bit of why, if this is a monomyth that's so vital, why isn't it exactly the same story that was handed from God to each group of people? It has its variations, I think, because of exactly what you're talking about, that over time certain ideas become what they are, and then they ossify. They stop changing and growing with the way that human beings need to change and grow over time, and they become outdated. We need to update things, and so I think there's an important part of what we're doing, which is letting go of that.
So I want to just leave us with a couple of quotes about like where we end up, according to Swedenborg. What we did all this stuff. What do you get out of it? This is from Secrets of Heaven 3212. when we are regenerating, we are becoming entirely different, entirely new. So when we have become regenerate, we are described as born anew and created anew. Although our face and speech remain the same, we no longer have the same kind of mind. When we have been reborn, our mind opens up toward heaven, and in it resides love for the Lord and charity to our neighbor, along with faith. Our mind is what makes us a new and different person. The change in our state cannot be detected in our body, but in our spirit. And then finally, from Secrets of Heaven, right by the beginning, he says, in regard to our spiritual lives, we now find pleasure and nourishment in religious knowledge and acts of kindness, and these are called our food. In regard to our earthly lives, we still find pleasure and sustenance in things related to our body and our senses, which cause strife until love takes charge and we develop a heavenly character. So you're not wiping out what came before, but it's falling into its order. And the difference is, like, what you love and what you enjoy changes. That's it. That's all it is now. Before, you told me I had to share with my sisters, so I'll do it. Now I love sharing with her because I understand that it makes her happy. And I've acquired a taste for that. I mean, all this really kind of comes down to, that's the treasure that we can bring back. And what I want to do before we quit here is, I want to give you guys a second to talk about your project, Golden Thread Labyrinths, because this is that you're creating like an immersive way for people to experience journeys like this. So, tell me everything about what you're doing and why you want to do it and all that.
Yep, I'll take first attempt at this. First, we're in the world of meditation labyrinths. These are something that have really taken off in the West more. A physical stone pattern on the ground that is an archetypal form, with, just like these hero journeys, with infinite change and difference, but these are literally 4,000+ patterns that recur in different cultures. And the idea, the man in the maze in native populations have a different form, but it's the same idea. It isn't the same thing as a maze. A labyrinth, when talked about in this modern connotation, is a unicursal or one path. You, far from having to choose, am I going to go the wrong way? Am I going to trip and fall in a trap? Am I going to be, am I going to be caught up in quicksand? That's a maze designed to get to the end and you get a little bit of cheese as a reward. Mm-hmm. A labyrinth, the only choice you make is whether to take that first step, enter that labyrinth, and give yourself that 8-9 minutes of meditative walking. There are no choices. You just walk forward, and yet it's the exact opposite of trying to get to the center at the fastest way. It is the very slowest possible path to a central point that follows you, and you lose your conscious mind as you wind left and right, and you make assumptions about how long this journey will take that are proven wrong. The inner time takes longer than the external time assumes it will. So there's this meditative quality where you lose yourself, just like in the hero's journey. You lose yourself and find yourself again. You go off on tangents, and just like in any form of meditation, you lose focus, and then it literally recenters you as you walk. So that's the power of the labyrinth. Mm-hmm. I'll pass it over to Alan to talk about
something about your sharing about the longest possible path to get to the center. There's a teaching that Swedenborg brings up that the Lord won't stop a temptation until it's completed its course. Right. Because if he stops it before it's over, then the reward won't be given.
Yeah.
And so there's a part of, we have to start the path, but it's also the continuation of it. And it's not cutting corners. There's no way to spiritually cut corners, because that's, what we're trying to do is produce ourselves.
Right.
So we're cutting corners off of ourselves, and the Lord's going, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Let's take the process of this world, this life, and actually experience it. And how much is it in our world today where we're trying to get there as fast as we can, where we want to accomplish that goal, where we need that house or whatever it is,
or grieving.
That's another.
I want to
big
get
one.
to that place of healing.
I got a meeting at 3. Let's
Yeah, exactly.
And so, as a simple meditation, it helps me automatically just go, this is a part of a process, and it very quickly takes me out of those anxious thoughts of how do I accomplish this as fast as possible, or are those people thinking badly about me, or all of those things can just fade away into today is a day, and I exist here, and I have this previous experience, I have goals, I have this intention that I'm setting today, and that's the inner sanctum. That's the place I want to end up in this labyrinth, at least spiritually. And then you walk. And what's fascinating about the cognitive dissonance side of this is it almost opens up a space in our thinking where it takes us out of logical, rational thought only and puts us into heart space. And it simplifies it in a beautiful way.
Yeah, so the labyrinth itself, just to get to the nuts and bolts, Golden Thread Labyrinths, the whole idea is about taking advantage of this ancient and modern archetypal form to help groups and individuals find or re-find their mission, their core values. Mm-hmm. So if you are from a business or of any sort, from a school, from a place of healing, if you could imagine a canvas rollout labyrinth or a brick and mortar stone beautiful garden meditative walk, we would design through consultation that labyrinth for you, and then what makes it particularly unique are in our plans, it would be a QR code that by phone takes you to some cloud-based audio guided experiences that focus even further, that say, for today, do you want this labyrinth walk, this 5-minute or 8-minute labyrinth walk, to be for stress reduction, or if you're at a school for
test anxiety.
Yeah. If you're at a winery, do you want to have it be teaching you about the history and mythology of winemaking?
Or a cemetery in grief. There's lots of ways to take those audio meditations and overlay them on the labyrinth in a way that brings about an institution's or a person's own golden thread.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do, is help connect people to that center.
That's so great. So I'm excited about your project. I'm glad you're launching it. I love the Swedenborg influence on it, as I'm predisposed to do. If any of you want to check it out more, there's a link in the description. Thank you to both of you, Alan and Dylan, for giving this time and your talent and energy. Love the conversation. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, Curtis. Really appreciate it.